Let's jump into God's Word this morning. Do you have your Bibles with you? Ezekiel chapter 40, week 5 of Faith Like Flint. Come on, are you doing good this morning? Come on, I know you're the real ones. You came on the Sunday that we're giving above and beyond. Everybody else who didn't want to, you're like, you know what? I feel like this is a good Sunday to sleep in. You know, I'm going to use one of my 13 skips on this one. This is the day I'm going to use it. But you're here, and I know God. I know God's going to bless today. You know, like this isn't a social club, what we do. Like this really has to be a force for good. And I always find it funny when the area of finances come up in church, because some people don't like to talk about it. And it's like, well, how do you think we do this? Do you think we do it on like hopes and prayers and fairies and wishes? Or do you think we build it on people who are sacrificially giving in order to move the mission of God forward? It's built with people who lean into the mission of God and use their whole life. Their whole life. And so, man, I'm excited. 9:15 was great. And listen, the 5 o'clock Christmas service, we're not doing that really for convenience. We're doing that because our church is going to be so on mission that they're going to come to the morning service, experience Jesus and Christmas and all the great like feels, and then go find somebody at HEB and kidnap them and take them to the 5 p.m. because we're a church on mission. All right, I know I got to go to the scripture. Ezekiel 40. In the 25th year of our exile, at the beginning of the year, the 10th day of the month, in the 14th year of the city was struck down. Here's what I find. I know we're just started. How many of you guys know, like, when you're in pain, you get really specific with time? You know, like, when things are good, like, time flies by, doesn't it? It's like, whoa. You know, the whole saying, when you're having fun, time flies. How many of you guys know, like, the guy in the prison who's counting every single day? He's like, day 1, day 2. Like, Ezekiel's in pain. That's why he's like, yeah, I'm going to be really specific. In the 25th year of our exile, at the beginning of the year, on the 10th month of the 10th day of the month, in the 14th year, he is being specific. Because my city was destroyed, and I've been a refugee and a prisoner of war. And it says this, and on that very day, the hand of the Lord was upon me, and he brought me to the city. In visions of God, he brought me to the land of Israel and set me down on a very high mountain on which was a structure like a city to the south. And then God, through Ezekiel, over the next few chapters, begins to architect the temple. And we're going to skip ahead to verse 47. Verse 47, so you can do that in your devices or in your Bible. And we're going to read 5 verses. He says, then he brought me back to the door of the temple, and behold, water was issuing from below the threshold of the temple. Toward the east, the water was flowing down from the south at the end of the threshold on the temple of the south altar. Then he brought me out by way of the north gate and led me around the outside of the outer gate that faces towards the east. And behold, the water was trickling out on the south side. Going on eastward with a measuring line in his hand, the man measured 1,000 cubits. Then he led me through the water, and it was ankle deep. And again he measured 1,000 and led me through the water, and it was knee deep. Again he measured 1,000 and led me through the water, and it was waist deep. Again, verse 5, again he measured 1,000, and it was a river that I could not pass through, for the water had risen. It was deep enough to swim in, a river that could not be passed through. Okay, here's what I want you to see. 1,000 cubits is 1,800 feet. So for a river to progress with just a few hundred feet, few thousand feet from ankle deep to waist deep is kind of like following God. How many of you guys know when you begin to follow God, you just kind of shallow in. You're not sure, okay, I'm going to check this out. And I love that. You may be here this morning. You may be on the bank. You may be ankle deep. You may be knee deep. You may be waist deep. But eventually, God will want you to follow him long enough to where you're going, hey, will you come all the way? Come all the way. Just start swimming. Because here's what happens. When I'm ankle deep, I can still a little bit resist the river. Come on, when I'm knee deep, I can still resist the river. But when I can't touch the bottom, how many of you guys know the river takes me where the river is going to go? And then I find myself in the current, and God is taking me. I'd love to title this message, The River is Real. The river is real. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I pray over these next few moments that, Lord, you would speak to us, you would encourage us. God, you would challenge us. God, you would help us become more and more like you. God, help every person just take a step closer to you today. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. All right, you guys pull out your notes, take a seat. Let's jump into God's word, and we're going to get after it. Sound good? Come on. I got to be out of here by 1 because England, they play Senegal. Do I have any English in the house? That's good. Do I have any Senegalese? Hey, you're not Senegalese. All right. I'm a big World Cup fan. It's been good. America, we're praying for you. You tried your best. Hey, you know what? I don't care what to say about the World Cup. Europe has never won an SEC championship, so praise God. All right. Runners, how many of you guys are runners? You like to run. You like to take jogs. How many of you guys, how many runners in that? How many yoga people? How many yoga people? How many of you guys are Orange Theory, Hot Works, fitness class people? Come on. How many of you guys like to lift weights? How many of you guys are big weight lifters? How many of you guys I sit on the couch and do nothing people? Come on, all right. I don't really understand runners. I'm not a runner. I was with a friend over Thanksgiving in Oklahoma, and we were catching up, and I said, hey, man, how's it going? He goes, man, I've really gotten into running lately. And I was like, why? Why'd you do that? He's like, I enjoy it. I've been running a lot. And he goes, in fact, we were meeting at a coffee shop. He goes, I just ran 10 miles. I ran here. And I go, why'd you do that? He goes, I've been loving it. I pushed myself, and he was showing me his app that he tracks all of his runs. And I was like, man, why in the world do you do that? I love runners because runners will let you know on social media how much better they are than you by posting their little run map. How many of you guys see their run map? And so while you're having donuts and coffee on a Saturday at 8 o'clock, they're like, yeah, I just ran 12 miles around Austin. Look how amazing I am. And I love it. I love that they can do that. I don't like running because it just hurts. It just hurts. How many of you guys, when you start running, it's like your esophagus is on fire, your lungs start hurting, your knees, your ankles, you're going, why? Why am I doing this? Right? Like, this makes no sense. I always grew up where running was punishment. Come on, how many of you guys, you grew up playing sports, and when you got in trouble, coach said, all right, take a lap, go run. Why would I want to do it when I'm an adult? I don't get it. It's not that I don't like pain. I'm okay with pain, and it's not that I avoid pain in all areas of my life. I just don't like open-ended, extended pain. And that's what a jog is for me. That's what a run is. It's like, now how long is this going to take? 45 minutes. Okay, I'm going to hurt for 44 minutes of that 45 minutes. All my non-runners, can you say amen? Ezekiel and the children of Israel, they're in significant pain. They're in a trial, they're in difficulty, they're in a problem-filled situation, and it's been going on for 25 years. Ezekiel says, in the 25th year of our exile, meaning for 25 years we've been refugees or prisoners of war, and then at year 14, actually our home was destroyed, and it's been 14 years since the destruction of Jerusalem. It's like, it's not that it's bad enough to be a prisoner of war when, because if you're a prisoner of war, there's always a little bit of hope that one day we'll be released and we'll be able to go back home. But now they're facing a situation where my hope was destroyed because even if they let us go, we have no home to go back to. They're in pain. This is very difficult because Ezekiel's been saying, hey, for 25 years, and again in Ezekiel 40 it says in the 25th year of our exile, at the beginning of the year, on the 10th day of the month, in the 14th year after our city was struck down. This pain they're experiencing isn't random. This pain they're experiencing and difficulty and trial they're experiencing is their own doing. They abandoned God, they abandoned the ways of God, and so therefore God gave them over to their behaviors and what they wanted. And then when God lets go of you, it's not just His guidance we lose, but it's also His protection. And how many of you guys know in life we have all done things at a certain time where we have done something ourselves that have found that has led to a painful or difficult moment? Come on, has anybody made a bad decision and then suffered the consequences? But how many of you guys know that there's sometimes in life that it's really out of our control, but still bad things still happen to us? I did nothing but this unfortunate situation or series of events. How many of you guys know that sometimes God will even lead us into difficult, painful moments when we're doing the right thing? How many of you guys love that? God will ask you to follow him through a trial, and you find yourself in a difficult situation, and it was on purpose. It's not punishment or consequence or random. It is literally the plan of God to lead you into pain. Can I get an amen? Ouch, someone said. Can I tell you that often God's tool that he uses to grow our life and shape us is pain? God often shapes us with pain. Proverbs 17 verse 3 says this: the crucible is for silver and the furnace is for gold, and the Lord tests the heart. It's often in the pain and sacrifice and trial of obedience, of surrender, of facing our fears, of forgiving someone who doesn't deserve it, of moving forward in faith and trust that we are shaped through pain. There's a saying in culture, no pain, no. The crucible of following Christ is often where God shapes us. It's in pain, it's in difficulty, it's in trial, it's in the testing, and often like a piece of flint that has to be shaped into something useful, so are you and I. God shapes us through difficult seasons. And like a piece of flint, if I pull flint out of the ground, which occurs naturally through geological processes, if I just pull a raw piece of flint and stick it on the end of the spear, how many of you guys know it is probably going to be ineffective? It's not going to be useful. It's not going to be aerodynamic. It's not going to be sharp. It's not going to be able to be balanced. And so therefore, flint has to be taken through a process where it's struck. Have you ever seen flint be developed? They take a piece of leather over their leg, and they put the flint there, and then they take something harder than flint, or as hard as flint, and then they strike it. And the way flint breaks is that it breaks with a very sharp edge, and so in order to make an arrowhead or a spear or a knife before modern technology, you would strike the flint, and then the flint would flake, and you would have to do it all a way around the edge, and there was more removed from the flint than was left. You see, when we begin to walk with God, oftentimes he takes us through a process where there is more removed from us than is left. You see, it's God taking us through a trial. It's God taking us through pain. It's God taking us through difficulty. God does not grow our faith by blessing us, but by breaking us. Then in the breaking is where we find the blessing. This is where God shapes our faith to be like flint. You see, if God continually blessed us, that would mean that he would be affirming us, but God breaks us because he wants to rearrange us how he designed. He wants to shape our hearts, our character, our mind, our life. And so therefore we must all as believers, if we're willing to follow God to the fullest design that he has for you, will go through seasons of breaking. Now, you can avoid breaking, but by avoiding breaking, you'll often avoid growing. By avoiding the pain and the difficulty and the problems, you will also avoid the potential and the promise and the destiny that God has for you. Look at every person who followed God in the Bible, and they all went through pain. They all went through difficulty. They all went through trial. They all went through testing. And Ezekiel is the same, where he says, for 14 years since the destruction and 25 years since the exile, God, I have been struggling. The children of Israel have been struggling, and this is how long Ezekiel has gone through trial. There's something about pain that I've just learned. I've learned in my life, and maybe you've learned it in your life, is it's not so much about how much pain, because there can be levels to intensity. And what I find is that it's not about how much pain, but oftentimes the biggest challenge for me when it comes to pain is how long. Like, think about it. Like, I can handle really intense pain for a short moment, but I cannot really do well with moderate pain over a long period of time. I think that's why I don't like running. Because I have to run for 45 minutes and it's a pain. I can do 3 sets of 12. Really good. Because I know it's a short burst. Yes, it'll hurt, but it'll be over. In fact, when my wife delivered our 4 children without pain medicine, because she's crazy, she would tell me, I know it will be over soon. Meaning, many of us, we're okay with pain when it comes in short bursts, but we're not okay with open-ended pain. How long will it last? And many of us, we're walking in seasons where you've had extended pain, because how much pain tells me how much can I handle. How long will the pain last? It goes beyond how much I can manage. I'm not able to manage that long. I'm not able to keep my willpower that long. That's why you can say no to the donut at 7 a.m., but say yes to the Oreo at 7 p.m. Because our strength fades. So I can tell you this is going to hurt really bad for 5 minutes, and you can flex and you can grin and grimace and just go, ah, and it's over. But if I told you this is going to hurt more than anything, how long is it going to last? I don't know. It may last 14 years. It may last 25 years. This is often where God brings us. This is where He shapes us. And how many of us, we have bailed out, we have skipped, we have decided to not keep following God in the river because the pain lasted too long. The trial, because we were trying to do it on our own strength, our own ability, our own wisdom. And I can't do it. Can I encourage you with this? Is that God tests us with trial before He can trust us with triumph. God tests us with trial before He can trust us with triumph. That's why Jesus says, to find life, you have to die to yourself. To receive all that God has for you, you have to give up all that you have. You don't think that's painful? You don't think that's difficult? You don't think that's a trial? You don't think that's a situation where when God takes you through those processes, though it's not just short, intense moments, but sometimes it's extended over longer periods of time? Ezekiel chapter 40 verse 1 says this, that in the 25th year of our exile, at the beginning of the year, on the 10th day of the month, in the 14th year after the city was struck down, on that very day the hand of the Lord was upon me. Here's what pain and difficulty and sacrifice and surrender and trial and all the things that aren't super fun to talk about but are actually really beneficial. Here's what I've learned, and when you walk with Jesus long enough, here's what I've learned in my life, is that when you go through seasons like that, you move from secondhand knowledge about God to firsthand knowledge. Secondhand knowledge meaning, yeah, he did it for them. He did it for characters in the Bible. He did it for family members. I've seen him do it for friends. I've seen him do it for people in my church. But firsthand knowledge is, no, he's done it for me. He's sustained me. He's strengthened me. He's walked with me. He was my hope in dark places. He was my foundation when I felt rocky. He was the light of my life when I was dark. He was my joy when nothing else made me happy. He was my peace when everything else was confusion. You see, pain and trial and problems and difficulty, they help move your knowledge from God, from stories about God to stories with God. I've walked through him with it. I've walked with him through it. I've gone through the storm. I've gone through the trial. Come on, 1045. I am preaching better than you are responding. I'm questioning, do you know some firsthand knowledge? He was with me then, and he is with me now through the trial. Pain is the test of God before he can trust us with triumph. Because isn't it funny? I know you don't like to think of yourself like this, but we're human. If we don't go through the trial first and feel like there is nothing on earth that can do X but God, when God begins to bless our life, we think the blessing is because of me. I'm really smart, or I made good investments, or I did it, or I have this. And what'll happen if we don't go through the trial and the testing period, then we'll think that all the good things in our life are just because of us. So this is Ezekiel. Ezekiel had to give bad news first. Y'all remember? He had to go and tell people about God's judgment. And remember when God said this, hey, and they're not going to listen to you? Remember that level of obedience? Hey, I need you to go. I need you to prophesy to a bunch of people who haven't listened to me for generations, and I need you to prophesy, and they're probably not going to listen to you. How many of you guys would probably tell God, well, God, listen, like find somebody else. I don't want to do that. And here's the crazy thing. For a decade, Ezekiel has been prophesying. Like if I'm a pastor and all I do for 10 years is preach really hard messages, how many of y'all at some point can be like, look, just encourage me a little bit. I mean, just imagine. You come to Victory.city.church for 15 years, and all I do is preach that y'all are a bunch of sinners and you're going to hell. How many of you guys would probably be like, you know what? I just feel like the Lord is leading us. I love it when people blame God for their own choices. Yeah, the Lord told me, no, you are making that choice. Don't blame it on God. The Lord is telling me I need to stop serving. No, God would not tell you that. God would never tell you to stop serving. Just let me just help you. God does not tell people to stop serving. He doesn't do it. What he says is serve even in the middle of it, and I'll strengthen you. This is Ezekiel's mission. I need you to be a doom and gloom preacher for 15 years. At some point, Ezekiel's got to be, God, let me preach the blessed life or something. God needed to know, can I test you in trial so that I can trust you in triumph? So what's Ezekiel's triumph? Ezekiel gets to be the mouthpiece for the greatest message humanity has ever seen, and that is that Jesus is the new temple. Let me explain it. Ezekiel chapter 40, verse 4 says this, and he said to me, Son of man, look with your eyes and hear with your ears and set your heart upon all that I shall show you. For you have been brought here in order, listen, in order that I might show it to you and declare all that you see to the house of Israel. Now Now, if God had led with good news, Ezekiel, will you go tell people all the good news? How many of you guys know everybody sign up for that? Wait, I get to go tell everybody that Jesus is going to bless them and do amazing things with you, right? I'll do that. Nope. I'm going to lead with bad news, and you have to tell them bad news for 10 years. How many of y'all are not signing up for that? I'm not signing up for that. I'm getting a different job. Any of your business is hiring? Because I'm not doing that. But Ezekiel is crazy enough, has faith like Flint enough to move through opposition, and then God begins to trust him. And look what it says in verse 47, or chapter 47. Then he brought me back to the door of the temple, and behold, the water was issuing from below the threshold of the temple toward the east, for the temple faced the east. And the water was flowing down from below the south end of the threshold of the temple, south of the altar. Okay. The reason the Old Testament is really difficult for us in our modern age to read and understand is because we do not really operate in poetic language anymore. 1,000 years ago, poetry was common. People talked in poetry. But in our modern era, we do not use poetry. We don't really understand symbolism and the different type of language that poetry can paint. I know some of y'all are emo and y'all do it, but most of us don't. Even modern hip hop isn't really poetry anymore. Y'all remember I listened to Biggie. Biggie was there was at least some form of poetry. Now you have all these SoundCloud rappers that just grunt the whole time. You just drank Sprite and codeine all afternoon, and they put you in a studio, and all you're doing is making noises, and all the kids are like, give me some poetry. Where's it at? It's all good. And all y'all country people, don't act like you're poets either. You either sing about a dog or a truck or beer. That's not poetry. My son listened to this song the other day, and it went don't touch my truck. I said, turn that mess off. I was riding in the car the other day with my kids, and I was listening to Stevie Wonder, and oh my goodness, it was a beautiful song. I love Stevie Wonder. Poetry, and he's talking here in symbolism. He's saying there's a temple, and there's water coming from it. It's symbolizing something that, the temple was destroyed. No, but I'm rebuilding the temple. And there's water coming from underneath the foundations. If you built a house and water was coming out from under the foundations, you would think something's wrong with it. What's going on? It shouldn't be that way. But God is building a temple where water is issuing from it. This is similar. Ezekiel is telling it, saying, God is rebuilding the temple. And a river will flow from it. Water represents life in Scripture. That's why Jesus instructs every person to do what? To drink from me, for I am the everlasting life. When you drink from me, you never go thirsty. Water equals life. And some of you know this. You don't even know what life was until you tasted Jesus, and then life began to flow in your heart, and you were going, now I know what life is. Ezekiel 47 verse 8, he goes and he continues. He says this, and he said to me, the water flows towards the eastern region, goes down into the Arabah, and enters the sea. I don't know if you're familiar with Middle Eastern geography, but the sea that Ezekiel is referring to is the Dead Sea. It says, when water flows into the sea, the water will become fresh. Now, the listeners would have said, water is already flowing into the sea. Water is already, because the Dead Sea is the lowest point on earth, and all the rivers near that region, streams and creeks, it flows to the Dead Sea, and it takes fresh water and turns it salty. It takes life and it kills it. So what's going to be different about this water? You see the symbolism? Isn't it funny that people can try all different versions and forms of spirituality, but it's only when they try Jesus is their life changed? It's only when they meet Jesus are the dead things in their life, are they suddenly come back to life. And I've been in the Dead Sea. I mean, guys, when you get in the water, sometimes accidentally, almost out of reflex, you lick your lips or you do something. I did that in the Dead Sea, and I was like, bleh. So salty. Everything is dead around it. The only thing I saw was a bunch of Russians floating in the water. They had taken a trip. Everything was dead. But Ezekiel's the mouthpiece saying this: the most dead place on earth, Jesus can cause it to come back to life. The most dead person on earth, Jesus can bring life to it. The most dead marriage on earth, Jesus can bring life to it. The most dead diagnosis, Jesus can bring life to it. So where are the areas in your life? You see how Ezekiel was trusted with triumph? The lowest, most dead place on earth, Jesus will flow into it and make it fresh. Ezekiel 47 verse 9. Again, this is a desert. Listen. And wherever the river goes. That's important, isn't it? Wherever the river goes, I want to stay connected to the river, because wherever the river goes, it says this: every living creature that swarms will live. And there will be many fish, for this water goes there, that the waters are the sea may become fresh. So everything will live where the river goes. Wherever the river goes, it's life. Again, this is a desert. And Ezekiel, through the Holy Spirit and through God's direction, is predicting that wherever the river goes, trees, fruit, flourishing will happen. That's why in the scripture it says those who are planted in the house of the Lord will flourish. Why? Because in the church there's a river. And let me press against this whole new age idea of you don't need a church. The church was not man's idea. The church was God's idea, and the river is in the local church. And wherever the local church has the river, can I tell you, that is where you will find life. Is it messy? Of course it is. People are messy. You're not perfect either. Is there a perfect church out there? No, we're not a perfect church. But can I tell you, the river of life is in the church. I figured like everybody at church would like give me an amen there, but that's okay. It's all good. My confidence doesn't need it. Last one. And then we're going to kind of land the ship here. Ezekiel 47 verse 12 says this: and on the banks of both sides the river will grow all kinds of trees, for there is food. Their leaves will not wither, nor their fruit fail, but they will bear fresh fruit every month, because the water flows from the sanctuary. Their fruit will be for food, and their leaves for healing. Ezekiel's seeing something, and it's symbology of a river. And he's saying not only will life flow, but healing and sustenance. You see, the waiting, the trial, the difficulty, and the pain becomes worth it, because out of it springs a river of everlasting life. And the reason, there's a lot of passages I love in Scripture. But this one's probably one of my top 10, because in this passage you have a fusion of symbology and actual literal archaeology and geography. Like, I love it when scientists discover things that actually prove the Bible. It's so incredible to me. Like they're discovering even now in the Holy Land different artifacts that actually prove real characters in the Bible. And like all the secular scientists are like scrambling to like make some bogus thing up and like, well, no, it's not actually. And it's like, no, it says David. Like it says it here. It's pretty incredible when science denies Jesus and then has to come back and affirm Jesus. It's kind of like God has a great sense of humor. Here's something really crazy, because you would read this and go, okay, there's going to be a temple in Jerusalem and water's going to flow through it, but it's a mountain and there's a desert. Here's something crazy. Just a few years ago, scientists were digging around Jerusalem. And you know something they found? This is crazy. I love it. It's just so cool to me. Is that they discover something. You can Google it. Google it when you get home. This pastor, he's making stuff. No, I'm not. They've discovered this thing called an aquifer underneath Jerusalem. And it's 100 million cubic meters of water. Now here's something crazy. I know y'all don't know what 100 million cubic meters means. It means 26 billion gallons of water underneath Jerusalem that is continually refreshing itself. Now, I know that's crazy. It's a merger of symbolism and reality. The river is real, y'all. The river is real. And I'm not talking about the Judean aquifer group that's sitting under Jerusalem. I'm talking about a man named Jesus. And when he hung on the cross and he was pierced on his side, it was not just blood that flowed, but it was water, because he is the river. Why are sold out Christians crazy? Come on, I'm getting ready to preach. Why are sold out Christians crazy? Why do they serve like nobody else? Why do they give like nobody else? Why do they witness like nobody else? Why do they worship like nobody else? Because they know the river is real, and they've been with him. They've been in him. They've been where their feet don't touch anymore. The river is real, and he's here, and he wants to bring life, and he wants to bring healing, and he wants to bring hope. Why? The river is real. Come on, touch your neighbor, tell him, the river is real. So why do we do today what we're going to do? I'd like to show you a video of somebody in our church who, for them, the river was real. Turn your attention to the screens, please.
My name is Megan.
My name is Matt, and we have been married 23 years coming this January. So we got together in 1997, and we met at a coffee shop. I was delivering the milk there, and she was making coffee. At that time, I had heard of God and Jesus, but I've never really followed him by any stretch of the imagination. Actually, my life was going in the complete opposite direction as Jesus.
So yeah, my story looks a little bit different. I had grown up in the church, and so I had known Jesus, and I was got baptized when I was 12. At the time when we met, I had fallen away from my walk with the Lord just for a brief time. Then when we decided to start a family, we decided together that we wanted to lead our family to follow Jesus, really. And so we made that commitment to Sundays, going to church, and just guiding our children.
We have 3 beautiful children. Our oldest, Casey. Our middle one is Alexia, and our son, Anthony.
And when Lexi was born, she came out just fulfilling her role as a middle child. She wanted to be everything that her older sister was, and she tried to follow in her sister's footsteps with sports and realized quickly that was not the direction she was going to go. So she ended up being our piano player. Lexi loved little kids. She loved makeup. She excelled in her academics. She was on National Honor Society, and she loved people.
On February 21st, 2019, I dropped Lexi off at school that morning, expecting to go on a work trip, and told her I was going to be gone and asked her if she could find a ride home from school. She said, of course. And she gave me a hug, and she said, I love you. She got out of the car, and I went on my way.
That day for me, I was coming home around the 5 o'clock hour. My usual route home turned out to look a little bit different as some roads were blocked, and came home with Anthony and Matt, and it said there was a bad car accident right around the corner, and we prayed for that family. Just went along our evening, cooked some dinner, and around 7 o'clock we got a knock on the door.
Little did we know that a block and a half away, Lexi was in a fatal car accident with her best friend Tanya, and our lives changed forever.
We literally said what everybody would say, and in a situation of that kind of, why us, and just thinking, is this real? This is a nightmare. This can't be true. But we are so grateful for the 17 years we had with Alexia, and we miss her so much every day. And we are grateful for all the things that she taught us in those 17 years. One thing she did teach us was her commitment to Jesus and her commitment to church.
About a month later, I had the honor to baptize Tanya, who was the driver. And the same day I got to baptize Anthony. And I look back at that going, this is how much Jesus has changed the lives, not only in our family, but in multiple families we don't even know. And he used Lexi as that connection piece, which makes us pretty proud of the decisions we made to raise our kids in the light of Jesus. When we started going to Victory with Casey and Isaac, we quickly realized that God had already been working on our hearts to jump back into church, and not just to go to church, not just to attend, but literally jump into church full on. When we first started coming to Victory, we were coming because our kids were leading there, and that was the only reason we were going to go. And when we first met with Pastor Eric and Natalie personally, I specifically told him, you'll never get us to serve, and you'll probably never get us to give to your church. And to our surprising, he said, fine, just this next season, take your time, be present in church, and there's no pressure here.
When we first came to Victory City, I think we were at the rawest emotionally. We were kind of, let's do the sit in the back seat type and not really wanting to get into community. And I think that commitment to every Sunday has helped shape our faith in regards to wanting our marriage to be better, wanting a community, wanting a deeper relationship with Jesus. And we knew that Lexi would want us to be a part of that as well. We did the church thing for about a year, but then we joined the Dream team, and we've been serving ever since.
I think through all of this season in our lives since 2019, God was shaping us like Flint to be able to use his faith, to use his grace, to use his mercy, to use his love through Victory City for us to be a warrior and a family of warriors, and to keep pressing on and sharing our testimony and changing other people's lives and helping other people get through their trials and their tribulations and what God is shaping in their lives.
I think for me, as we continue on this journey, Victory City has helped us stay committed to a community, as we've heard Pastor Eric say, not to do life alone. And as we continue and move forward, I know that he has strengthened our marriage. Mm-hmm. He has strengthened our relationship with our children. He's strengthened our relationship with other members in Victory City. We've created friendships that we never thought that we could have. And so we just look forward to continuing that through Victory City.
Church is fun again, y'all. It's been Victory City is a pretty awesome place to be. It's happening.
It's happening.
It's happening.